Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. The mystery of the Coronation Stone? Okay. It looked cool. I saw it. I mean, it just looked like a big brick stone, but it had like a chain on it. Anyways, yeah, I learned about it, and I learned there's a chair that some idiots graffitied on it. But at what point does graffiti on an ancient at what point does graffiti itself become part of the history of a thing? Because if there was graffiti of like on the ancient pyramids, and the graffiti was done in like 800 BC, right? Would you erase the graffiti then? You know, do you get what I mean? So when does graffiti become history? Anyways, so I just heard there's a chair that it stores, and people carved in it in like the 1800s. So, hi guys, let's go. Original link to the video, top of the description, right below that. Link to the Discord. Click on it, send it right over there. Love to have you. My name is Connor. I'm a psycho. No, I like to learn. Bro, phones.
I'm Dan Snow, and I'm at Westminster Abbey, and it is here that the
Dan
kings
Snow.
and queens...
Guys, phones. Whoa, look how bright that is on there. It's like a lightsaber. Away. If you are not ready to learn, you're in the wrong class, especially when Dan is here. You will give him your full attention, or I will find you, and let's learn.
Hi, I'm Dan Snow, and I'm at Westminster Abbey, and it is here that the kings and queens of England and Britain have been crowned since 1066, with one or two exceptions. And I'm here because the world will be watching their TVs on May the 6th as King Charles arrives for his coronation, a ceremony of pomp and pageantry, carefully choreographed, elements of which have traditions that stretch back for 1,000 years. But there's one element that's always fascinated me, and that is the legendary Stone of Scone, the mysterious Stone of Destiny. It sits beneath the throne of the sovereign.
I'm guessing that is the one who looks like Alexander Tsar George the Fifth,
as they're being crowned. But it's a symbol of Scottish sovereignty, and that's made it a cause of controversy right up to the present day.
I'll react to that, sure. Oh, wow, thanks. Sorry, guys. I'll react to that, sure, was from, I just watched a different video.
Made it a cause of controversy right up to the present day.
The sandstone slab, no bigger than a small suitcase, has only the barest of decoration. A roughly carved cross, plus iron rings fitted at either end. So what's so special about this, frankly, unremarkable-looking rock? Well, according to one Celtic legend, the stone is actually the biblical stone of Jacob from the book of Genesis. In the Old Testament, Jacob used the stone as a pillow when he has his famous vision of a stairway leading to heaven, which becomes known as Jacob's Ladder.
How did they get the iron ring in the stone? Did they drill it? I heard that.
From the Holy Land, the stone reportedly travelled around the Mediterranean, popping up in Egypt, Sicily and Spain, before reaching Ireland with an invading army in around 700 BC. Here it was placed on the sacred hill of Tara near Skerne in County Meath and named the Lea Foil, or speaking stone. It was said to groan aloud if the claimant was of...
I'm a child, I'm sorry.
Lea Foil, or speaking stone. It was said to groan aloud if the claimant was of royal blood, but remained silent if he was a pretender.
Good.
And then, at long last, the stone made its way to Scotland in the hands of King Fergus, an Irish ruler who moved his seat of power to Duned in Argyll in 498 AD. Well, so much for the legend. The only source we have for this part of the story is the Scottish Declaration of Arbroath, which was written up in 1320 and mentions an honour passing through the Mediterranean Sea and coming from Israel. The declaration was an attempt to get the Pope to recognise Scottish independence, and it does tend to bend the truth a little. On slightly firmer historical ground, it's believed the stone was taken to Scone Abbey in Perthshire after Kenneth MacAlpin, who united the Scots and Pictish kingdoms and is known as the first king of Scotland, moved his capital to Scone in around 840 AD.
While much of the origin story is disputed, we think that it was in use between the 9th and the 13th centuries in Scone Palace in Perthshire as a seat for the crowning of kings. But we don't actually know what it looked like at the time.
Today, the stone is a simple block of pinkish sandstone. Back in the Middle Ages, described very differently. This has led some historians to speculate that the stone King Charles will use in his coronation is not the same one as was used back then. Some stories say that the real stone was hidden from the English invaders and a replica is now being used in its place. More on that later. Contemporary accounts of what the stone looked like at Scone vary. Some describe it as being hollowed out like a chair or seat. Some say it was blackish or made of marble. Some say it was sculpted, and some that it was carved. Others believe it was branded with metal and set with lifting rings at each corner. Whatever the stone looked like, it had a sacred and important role and was used for coronation ceremonies whenever a new Scottish monarch came to power. The stone sat outside the abbey at a place called Moot Hill, which is where the ceremonies took place. During those years, many Scottish kings were inaugurated here, including familiar names like Macbeth, the 11th century king immortalised by William Shakespeare.
The stone
Macbeth was a real person?
stayed in Scone until 1296, when it was unceremoniously removed by King Edward I of England, aka
Confessor?
the Hammer of the Scots.
Oh.
King Edward's nickname
Longshank.
stemmed from his involvement in a series of bloody conflicts between England and Scotland in the late 13th and early 14th centuries, called the Wars of Scottish Independence. A succession crisis sparked by the deaths of Alexander III in 1286 and his young granddaughter Margaret, the Maid of Norway, 4 years later, was the cause of this particular neighbourly feud. A lack of any obvious monarch to sit on the Scottish throne gave Edward I the chance to intervene, making his preferred candidate king. But that man, John Balliol, soon proved insufficiently loyal for Edward's liking. In 1296 he invaded Scotland, sweeping all resistance before him. The fugitive King John was forced into a humiliating surrender and was sent south in captivity. Edward seized the symbolic Stone of Scone along with other relics and took them back to London with him. The stone was then fitted into a specially commissioned coronation chair. Remarkably, it's the same chair still used.
Check out that sword. So that's a Zweihander, right? Two-hander?
Specially commissioned coronation chair. Remarkably, it's the same chair still used to this day. However, some maintain that the real stone was actually hidden away by monks from the abbey and a fake was taken by King Edward. Geologists have proven that the slab in use today was quarried near Scone itself, adding to the mystery. Regardless, the stone that Edward took...
Guys, is the Magna Carta still around? Like, is that on display somewhere? You know?
undoubtedly became a powerful symbol. Regardless, the stone that Edward took undoubtedly became a powerful symbol of England's dominion over Scotland.
The stone has been used in almost all of the coronations of English and British sovereigns ever since. Although there was one occasion in 1328 when it came close to leaving the capital.
At the end of the First War of Scottish Independence, a treaty was negotiated that included a clause where Edward III agreed to return the Stone of Destiny to Scotland. However, when the time came to transport it, rioting crowds prevented it from being removed from Westminster Abbey and it stayed put. Since then, the stone has played host to a lot of royal bums.
Keep your word, guys.
One noteworthy coronation was that of Stuart King James I. When Queen Elizabeth I died childless, she was succeeded by King James VI of Scotland, who became King James I of England. Because James was a Scotsman, his coronation on the Stone of Scone in 1603 was said to fulfill an ancient prophecy, which was once written onto its surface. The passage, as interpreted by Sir Walter Scott, read, "Unless the fates be faulty grown, and prophet's voice be vain, Whoe'er is found this sacred stone, the Scottish race shall reign.
Interesting. So that, like, him being a Scot, you know, it's like fulfilling the prophecy that the stone would return or
It
whatnot.
wasn't until a chilly Christmas morning in 1950 that the stone headed off for a brief return to its ancestral homeland in Scotland, thanks to a group of Scottish nationalist Glasgow University students.
The stone was stolen from Westminster Abbey at 5 in the morning by a group of young people who had broken in, determined to return it to its spiritual home. It's truly an amazing story. Reportedly, a policeman stopped 2 of the students involved in the heist as they were leaving Westminster Abbey, wanting to know why they were parked outside. The male and female student pretended they were locked in a passionate embrace and explained they hadn't been able to find a hotel. The policeman was rather lenient, chatting to them before moving them along. He had no idea that they had in their car a broken chunk of the Stone of Destiny, the ancient symbol of Scotland, which hadn't been moved for 7 centuries. The stone was split in 2 as they dislodged it from the chair, and the 2 pieces were brought back from Scotland in the boot of their car.
Jesus Christ, it broke.
Despite a nationwide search, the stone wasn't discovered until 4 months later, when it was found draped in the Scottish flag on the altar of Arbroath Abbey. No charges were brought against the students, and the stone was returned to London. That's not the only upheaval the stone has witnessed in the last 100 years. In 1914, suffragettes detonated an explosive under the Coronation chair as part of their bombing and arson campaign and badly damaged it. And during World War II, concerns about the German bombing led to the stone being secretly buried under Westminster Abbey, while the Coronation chair was moved to Gloucester Cathedral until the war was over. At the end of the turbulent 20th century, the stone returned to Scotland for good. In 1996, British Prime Minister John Major made an attempt to silence calls for Scottish independence by announcing the stone would be taken to Edinburgh Castle, where it's now kept with the Scottish crown jewels.
When the stone was returned to Edinburgh 27 years ago, it was agreed that we only head back down south in the event of a coronation. And so, in the last few weeks, the stone has made that journey.
Imagine they keep it. Like, all right, no, it's not going back.
While many people resent the use of this symbol of the Scottish nation in the crowning of a British monarch, it really does emphasise the importance of history, of tradition in this coronation rite, which has remained largely unchanged for nearly 1,000 years. It's also a powerful symbol of the complicated relationship between England and Scotland, which remains a political hot topic to this day. Thanks for watching this video on the History Hit YouTube channel. You can subscribe right here to make sure you don't miss any of our great films that are coming out. Or if you are a true history fan, check out our special dedicated history channel, historyhit.tv. You're going to love it.
Gonna love it. Love Dan. All right, he's awesome. Cool video. I'm not Scottish or English or whatever. All right, I know I might say, you know, Scottish, whatever. You know, Anyways, all right. Yes, my great grandfather was probably still here, but anyways. I would think that, you know, the wanting of the stone to be in the ceremony so bad would give a kind of pride, as if, like, you know, you're part of it. What do I know? Awesome video. Love History Hit. Love you guys. Hope you're all doing well. I'm excited to see the coronation go down. Not because I'm a fan of the royal family. I'm a fan of British history, and it's a big historical event, and that's why I'm excited. See you guys next time, all right? Bye, guys.